Apex has broken in a lot of crazy ways throughout its 4-year lifespan, but what are the most ridiculous glitches that we've seen for each and every legend? For starters, during Season 12, Valkyrie was able to go absolutely zooming by glitching herself into the start ultimate animation, and all that really was necessary to pull this off was starting a revive and then cancelling it by popping your ultimate and reviving your teammates at the same time. And if it popped and you did the whole process right, you could build up some insanely high speeds. But of course, Valkyrie is not the only legend who could go zooming across the map, because obviously we have Horizon high up on that list as well, pun
I have the high ground.
very much intended. While she's had a lot of pretty crazy glitches, in particular related to her tactical, this one certainly takes the cake. In Season 11, we finally received a new map, Storm Point, along with these flyers all over it. Users found that by shooting the flyers down and having the death box drop, and then interacting with the death box by placing a Horizon gravity lift under it, would result in them sort of priming the death box and have it start moving around. But to make it even better, once the death box stopped moving, you could stand on top of it, slide off, and then cross the entire map in one go. And speaking of dying, back in Season 3, Mirage used to have a way to come back alive from death. If Mirage was knocked when one of his clones would cross into a trap like Watson's or Cost, through some insane amounts of spaghetti code, he would simply rise again and be revived. Funny enough, a clip of this went viral on Reddit and garnered the attention of the Apex developer Monster Clip, who joked about how the community wanted a Mirage buff, so where's the problem? And that's just a quick glance into a better time when the community and the developers were on better terms with each other. And another golden nugget from that very era would of course be the Wraith tactical spam, whereby perfectly timing a punch as soon as she would come out of phase, Wraith would be able to completely reset her tactical's cooldown and be able to immediately enter phase again. And thanks to how fast the tactical's animation was back then, this essentially meant that Wraith was able to stay in phase forever, without giving the enemies much of a chance to actually kill her, and it even allowed her to outlive the zone for a lot longer than her opponents would. Naturally, this bug was pretty severe and allowed for some crazy high RP gains, and was getting abused so much that Tangential Logic ended up speaking up and saying that anyone abusing this glitch would end up getting banned. And while nobody notable ended up getting the ban hammer from this, Caustic's glitch actually led to a pretty high-profile ban as well. The Caustic ult dash was a short-lived exploit where any legend, so actually not necessarily just Caustic, but most notably him, would be able to instantly dash forward an infinite amount by pressing the ult button to pull up your held ultimate, punching, and then spamming the holster button. This glitch would let you traverse an insanely far distance with seemingly no effort, and was what ended up getting Taxi 2G banned on several occasions through a series of poor judgment. That being said, we're not here to talk about that, but I have made a video that covers it a little bit more that you definitely should check out after this one if you are interested. Don't worry about it, I'll make sure to remind you at the very end of the video, because we still have so many exploits to talk about. While a version of the ult dash actually managed to exist for Pathfinder as well, where you used his grapple to get the same results as the ult dash, instead of making this video super repetitive, I figured we'll just talk about another fun exploit instead. For a short period of time during Season 12, Pathfinder could immediately go flying across the map by grappling this loot ball from the face driver and simply jumping at the right time. And the timing would change the way it launched you as well. If you timed the jump just right, it would yeet you straight up instead, which was a lot more useful than flying off the side of Olympus. And if you managed to bump into the right thing after using this glitch, it would sort of just teleport you to a random place. But anyways, let's take a breather from all the high-speed yeet glitches and take a look at some more absurd ones instead. Gibraltar used to be able to stack placeable items on his shield, such as Caustic's barrel traps or Octane's jump pad. These barrels could stack and would clip through any object that they touched, and by attaching the jump pad to Gibraltar's shield, the player could simply look down to activate the jump pad and go flying, even midair. Now, this bug was all the way back in Season 1, so finding lots of good footage of this bug is proving surprisingly difficult, but as far as finding things goes, the same cannot be said about Seer's glitch. Because Seer's glitch let you see everything. Right when Seer had gotten nerfed pretty close to the version we have today, at least as far as his passive is concerned, users managed to find a way where he could keep his passive scan up while healing, while shooting, while sprinting. Basically, you could keep it up permanently. All you had to do in order to pull this off was sliding, starting a tactical, and then immediately going for a melee. And then you had a permanent scan. So yeah, Seer has always been really annoying to deal with, and you could imagine that anyone who was really hyped about him getting a large nerf was pretty devastated shortly after. And of course, something else that was completely devastating has to be the Rampart and Crypto combo. And yeah, I know this is technically 2 legends, and I've got something lined up for Crypto later on in the video, but I just had to bring attention to this crazy combo aptly named the AC-130, where by placing Rampart Sheila on top of a Crypto drone, the Rampart could fly around with the Crypto as a pilot and shoot any enemies that happened to cross her or the drone's path. Now, there was one issue: the drone only had a range of up to 200 meters, but since Olympus was the main map around this time, teams started placing the Crypto on a trident and just kept driving him around while chasing the drone to ensure that the Rampart would be able to fly around everywhere without ever having to fly too far away from Crypto and her team. But what about Crypto? The drone has always been coded kind of weirdly, and I had a really hard time deciding on which glitch I wanted to highlight. But this one is just so bizarre that I really wanted to talk about it. During Season 12, through a series of actions, Crypto players could use their drone not only as a way to do recon, but also as an Amazon Prime delivery drone. By keeping their inventory full, then holding the pickup item button, and then properly timing the drone button, the quick swap menu would stay up once you enter the drone, allowing you to drop the item you would have swapped the item on the ground for. And while this was kind of an odd bug with extremely niche use cases, the same could not be said for the next glitch, where for a brief period of time around her release, Vantage wasn't completely useless. Around her release in Season 14, the movement community immediately started digging around for ways to abuse her tactical dash for any cool movement techniques, and not too long after she was released, the Vantage dash technique was discovered. These movement players would find that by starting the Echo relocation and then immediately popping a healing item, it would skip the charge up animation and launch you towards Echo at a significantly higher speed. Respawn caught wind of this and ended up patching it out pretty soon, but despite their efforts, the movement players immediately found another way to Vantage dash, which still was as useful, if not even more useful than just skipping the charge up animation. By placing Echo right underneath you and then holding your tactical and the movement button to go in either direction, followed by a double jump, you could dash in either direction rather than just being confined to going straight towards Echo. Sadly, like all the glitches so far in this video, this was also eventually removed from the game, solidifying Vantage as one of the worst picks in Apex. But unlike Vantage, this next legend did not become completely useless after receiving what is a small bug fix. Everyone loves the new Revenant, and around the very start of his new release, his Shadow Leap was a little bit stronger than it is today. Specifically, in the first few days or week after his release in Season 18, players realized that by starting your leap, followed by you sliding off a ledge and then letting go of the leap key, you would get access to your weapons mid-leap and be able to shoot your enemies as you fly by. As cool as this looked, and of course as fun as it was to do, it didn't last forever and got patched out just about a week later. But that doesn't stop Revenant from destroying pubs in the state that he is in today. But while Revenant can destroy pubs from his sheer strength alone, there are a few legends who manage to destroy Apex, especially ranked, to the same degree like Fuse did with Tridents. This glitch allowed Fuse to enter a Trident and take absolutely no damage, other than from area of effect abilities like Caustic's gas or the zone itself, making Fuse and his Trident practically invincible. This is probably one of the most game-breaking bugs out of all the ones we are featuring in this video, and even worse, it was so easy to do. By lining up Fuse's ultimate with a Trident so that the flame would land on the Trident would seemingly catch fire, after which Fuse could start riding it and no longer take any damage. And that's it. It got abused to the point where you would regularly see several Tridents zooming around in the end games, making ranked and its limited competitive integrity much worse than it already was in the first place. And of course, while we are on the subject of ruining competitive integrity, let me tell you about Loba. One of the main appeals of Loba's tactical, other than running away, the second a fight starts, is of course hiding in hard-to-reach places. But some Loba players found that hard-to-reach places includes some impossible-to-reach places as well. Like with any game, all the geography and objects in Apex, like boxes, rocks, and the ground itself, is completely hollow. Everything in the game is sort of made up of textured shells, which means that if you manage to place a teleporting ability just the right way, you can actually get inside of these shells. And that's just what the Lobas started to do. In not too long, Lobas would start using their tactical to glitch into rocks, into boxes, and even out of the map to avoid seeing any other players and take the placement points to the bank. Sure, this meant that the Loba players wouldn't be able to get out and probably die from zone, but if a Loba player gets a chance to avoid fighting for any set amount of points, they're gonna take fake it. To make matters worse, this glitch sort of still persists in the game and comes back from time to time, most notably during the last few Winter Express events, where Lobas will throw their bracelet in front of this box on the train as it is moving, glitching into it and stalling out the games infinitely, since they cannot be killed from anyone. And of course, the points cannot be capped for as long as they are alive. And while we're on the topic of Infinite, let me tell you about Lifeline's Dock Drone. In the first year or so of the game, there was a glitch where Lifeline's Dock Drone would keep healing you no matter how far away from the drone you actually ended up. This will let you keep healing despite using Octane Stim or pushing straight into an enemy, giving you a massive health advantage as it would, keep healing you up. It was surprisingly simple to pull off as well by simply attaching to the drone, and as it is healing, you would close the door on it. This would destroy the drone, but still give you the healing status for the rest of the drone's duration. Thankfully, this glitch didn't really hit the mainstream, but the same can't be said for the Newcastle Rest glitch. Right when Newcastle was released in Season 13, users quickly found a peculiar glitch whereby reviving a teammate using his passive and then immediately going down a slope, Newcastle and his teammates would go sliding away from their enemy in Mach 5. This was abused by tons of streamers and bug enjoyers until it was finally fixed not too long afterwards. It was honestly pretty game-changing, to the point where Newcastle saw a noticeable dip in his pick rate right after it was fixed. And while Newcastle's speed bug was huge, the same couldn't be said for Bloodhound's Sheila glitch. While not being a game-changing glitch, it's still pretty funny, whereby using the Sheila while wearing this cool-looking red Bloodhound skin, Bloodhound's neck would stretch out, and then stay completely still as Bloodhound would continue looking around with the Sheila. Like I said, maybe not as game-changing as most of the other legends, but it was certainly pretty goofy looking. Something else that was really goofy looking, or I guess in a way not looking at all, has to be the Bangalore Invisibility glitch. Out of the many bugs that plague the 4th season of Apex, this one certainly takes the cake. If a Bangalore player had the Killer B or Killer Overdrive skins equipped and played the game for long enough, where they apparently took enough steps, they would turn invisible. Or well, mostly. Sure, you could see the head and their weapons floating around, but if you weren't paying attention, you might miss them in your peripheral view, and better yet, it was near impossible to track an invisible Bangalore mid-fight. After identifying the issue, Respawn thankfully disabled the skins and fixed it, but it definitely took a little while until that finally happened. Another glitch that really took a while has to be the code nut error. The code nut error was just one of the many issues that have been caused by Wattson simply existing in Apex. Around her release, being in an area where your client would load in too many of Wattson's fences at once, such as in any professional tournament or high-ranked lobby, would result in anyone close enough simply crashing out of the game and receiving the error code nut. With how popular Wattson was around the time, where every team ran her, it was almost a guarantee that the teams playing in the center of zones would end up hitting this limit of fences and crashing, with several reported instances of half the server or more crashing at the very same time. It got so bad that playing on the edge of the circle became the norm, if not for having more control of the outcome of your game, just to make sure you don't crash in the first place. But a worth a mention goes out to defenses causing a plethora of other issues too, because in addition to crashing clients, there's been a recurring bug where your HUD just randomly disappears. This has also been linked to Wattson's fences in the past, where the player's entire HUD or overlay would disappear if there were too many fences around, rendering them unable from seeing what's going on, but even worse, losing access to on-screen features like their inventory, Loba's Black Market, or the minimap, unless they looked straight down into the floor, after which they would restore the ability to actually play the game properly. And while Wattson stopped other players from playing the game, the Ashe glitch allowed them to do some pretty fun things with the game too. Since Ashe's ultimate makes a portal to any walkable terrain, this makes it one of the perfect abilities to take yourself to unreachable heights, squeeze into tight places, like with Loba, or most importantly, it is the perfect ability to learn what parts you actually can reach in the first place. While Loba's teleport has a shorter range and it forces you to throw the bracelet in an arc, Ashe's ultimate lets you teleport right where you are aiming with a much longer range, and most importantly, it lets you look around and due to the UI get direct feedback whether you can teleport where you want to go or not. Thanks to this feedback, there have been plenty of abusable, glitched spots that you can only reach with Ashe's ultimate, like getting on top of this invisible legend fragment, or most notably, teleporting onto the floating Nessies or the balloons that we saw during the recent anniversary event. And of course, another fairly recent glitch has to be the ballistic golden weapon glitch, where on release the bug diggers ended up finding up a way to create golden weapons using ballistic's ultimate, and then dropping them onto the ground fully stack, allowing the old man to become a golden weapon factory. And other than hitting a finicky timing, it turns out that replicating this glitch was super easy. All you had to do was pop your ultimate, open your inventory, and keep spamming the drop weapon on your slowing weapon. And if you were lucky, or if you got your timing just right, that weapon would be dropped onto the ground, fully upgraded, permanently. Moving on, I really want to mention Mad Maggie, who has had quite a lot of troubles with the Wrecking Ball. You see, for the longest time after release, the Wrecking Ball would just randomly break when you threw it. Normally it's supposed to hit the max range and then blow up, unless it hits an enemy or an object on the way, but for whatever reason, it would just randomly break instead. And yeah, that's really the only glitch with Maggie's ball, unless you count sticking the riot drill to the ball and sticking the riot drill to Crypto's drone, or sticking the riot drill to rev shell grenades. You get the gist of it. So yeah, Maggie's glitch was a little bit underwhelming, but wait until you hear about Catalyst. Full disclosure, this one also abused Rampart's turret, but it's so good that I have to mention it. By placing Rampart's Sheila in the middle of an empty doorway and then rebuilding the door using Catalyst's passive, the Sheila would actually clip through the doorway and allow you to shoot through Catalyst doors, while at the same time stopping the Sheila user from taking any damage from anyone on the outside. And don't let the third-person view fool you. Once you are on the turret yourself, you're still able to see everything just fine. And of course, we have seen this bug before, where the Sheila can clip through Gibraltar's bubble, but Catalyst's barrier is a little bit more permanent, and as such is more worth it bringing up than a measly 12-second temporary barrier. And of course, we can mention legend-specific glitches without talking about Octane. This speedy demon has had his fair share of glitches, and it's been really hard to pick which one I would want to feature in this lengthy video, but honestly, thinking about it, it's going to have to go to the infinite stim stacking. By popping your stim and then immediately throwing a holo spray, the Octane would be able to immediately pop another stim without having to wait for the cooldown. Sure, it took some health off, but since your health can't go lower than 1, your health very quickly hit its bottom limits, while your speed didn't. And by doing this for a significant amount of time, Octanes were able to stack up some ridiculously high speeds and be able to cross the map in no time. Personally, out of all of the glitches in this video, this might be one of the more fun ones, since sure, it doesn't send you as far as some of the other ones, like the Horizon launch, the Valkyrie ultimate launch, or the Pathfinder loot tick, but it still allowed you to hit some really high speeds while still having good control of your character. But this was just a handful of glitches, and if you are interested in learning about more glitches that ended up breaking Apex, you should definitely check out the video on the screen for some more non-legend specific ones that are just as crazy, if not worse than the ones you've seen so far. If I ended up missing any bugs I should have featured, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace out.